The low ceiling of the Helios outpost bar trapped the mingled stench of alien liquor, unwashed bodies, and desperation. Anders Cade nursed his third drink, something cheap and caustic that burned his throat but numbed his thoughts. Exactly what he needed. The bar's holographic displays flickered with news from across the galaxy. None of it good. None of it relevant to a disgraced pilot living on the edge of civilized space. 5 years since the incident. 5 years of exile on this miserable outpost in the armpit of the galaxy running cargo that barely paid enough to keep his ship the Nomad from falling apart. Anders ran a hand through his unkempt hair and stared at his reflection in the grimy mirror behind the bar. Once bright eyes, now dulled by alcohol, and regret stared back at him. "You look like shit, Cade," came a familiar voice. Anders didn't bother turning around. "Go away, Jace." The lanky smuggler slid onto the stool beside him, uninvited. Jace's cybernetic eye whirred as it adjusted to the dim light. "That's no way to greet an old friend, especially one bringing an opportunity. Your opportunities usually end with me narrowly avoiding prison." Anders drained his glass, signaling for another. Jace leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Not this time. This comes from high up, real high up." "Not interested." "It's from High Counselor Thalon himself." The name made Anders pause, his glass halfway to his lips. Thalon was the highest authority in the Ethetheran sector, the sprawling region of space that included the Helios outpost. If Thalon wanted something from a disgraced pilot, hiding in the galactic fringes, it couldn't be good. "What would Thalon want with me?" Anders asked, unable to hide his curiosity. Jace's cybernetic eye glinted. "The royal ship, the Astral Dawn, has disappeared into the Vortex Nebula. They need someone to go in after it." Anders laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. "The Vortex, that's a death sentence. No ship can navigate that chaos." "Apparently you can." Jace slid a data chip across the bar. "Your service record shows you've navigated similar conditions before your incident." Anders' fingers closed around the chip reflexively. The Vortex Nebula was a swirling maelstrom of energy storms, magnetic anomalies, and gravitational traps. Normal navigation systems failed there. Normal pilots died there. "What's on the Astral Dawn that's so important?" Jace's organic eye widened. "You don't know the royal twins, the princesses Elixa and Cell, heirs to the Ethetheran throne." Anders pushed the data chip back. "Find someone else." "There is no one else," Jace said, suddenly serious. "Look, Thalon is offering full exoneration, a clean slate, your reputation restored." The words hit Anders like a physical blow. Exoneration. After 5 years of living in shame, of being blamed for the deaths of his crew, the chance to clear his name seemed impossible. Too good to be true. "What's the catch?" "You leave now, today. A transport is waiting to take you to the Athriel research station. They'll outfit your ship with modifications to survive the nebula." Anders stared at his drink, considering. The smart move was to walk away, but the promise of redemption pulled at him a chance to silence the ghosts that haunted his dreams. "Fine," he said finally. "I'll meet with Thalon, but I'm not promising anything." Jace grinned, his relief evident. "That's all they're asking for now." The transport to the Athriel station was sleek and silent, military grade. Its pilot said nothing to Anders during the journey, which suited him fine. He needed time to think, to calculate the risks. The Vortex Nebula had claimed countless ships over the centuries. What made Thalon think the Nomad would fare any better? The Athriel research station hung in space like a jeweled spider, all gleaming metal and pulsing energy fields. As the transport docked, Anders caught glimpses of strange technology, unlike anything in common use throughout the galaxy. The Ethetherans guarded their advanced tech, jealously sharing it only when absolutely necessary. A delegation awaited him in the docking bay, led by a tall, imposing figure, dressed in flowing robes of midnight blue. High Counselor Thalon's silver skin caught the light as he approached, his pupilless eyes fixed on Anders. "Captain Cade." Thalon said, his voice melodious and yet somehow cold. Thank you for coming. Anders didn't bother with pleasantries. I haven't agreed to anything yet. Of course, Thalan gestured toward a doorway. Please let us discuss the situation in more comfortable surroundings. They moved to a conference room with a breathtaking view of space. The Vortex Nebula was visible in the distance, a swirling mass of purple and blue energy that seemed to bend the very fabric of reality around it. Looking at it made Anders's head hurt. The astral dawn entered the nebula 48 hours ago. Thalan explained, activating a holographic display. We lost contact almost immediately. Their last transmission indicated a navigation system failure. The hologram showed the royal ship, an elegant vessel designed for diplomacy rather than combat. Anders studied it, noting its weaknesses. Why would a royal ship go anywhere near the vortex? He asked. It wouldn't, Thalan replied. Not intentionally. We believe the navigation system was compromised. Sabotage. The Corvellian Collective. Thalan's expression darkened. Most likely. They've opposed our rule for generations. The loss of both royal heirs would create chaos in our succession lines. And you want me to fly into the vortex, find the astral dawn, and somehow bring it back? Precisely. Anders shook his head. Even if I could find them, the Nomad isn't equipped to tow a vessel that size. We don't need you to tow it, Thalan said. The astral dawn is intact, but its navigation systems cannot handle the nebula's interference. We need you to guide them out. And what makes you think I can navigate the vortex when your own royal pilots couldn't? Thalan's gaze was unsettling, as if he could see through Anders. Your encounter with the gravitational storm in the Cygnus sector. You piloted manually when systems failed, saving 3 of your 5 crew members. No other pilot has demonstrated such ability. The mention of the Cygnus incident made Anders flinch. That was different. Was it? Thalan touched a control, and the hologram changed to show Anders' old ship, the Pathfinder, caught in a gravitational maelstrom. Your neural patterns during that crisis showed unique adaptation. Your brain synchronized with the ship's systems in a way we've never seen before. Anders felt cold. You monitored my neural patterns? Standard procedure for all military vessels, Thalan said dismissively. The point is, you have a rare ability to process spatial distortions intuitively. With the proper modifications to your ship, you could navigate the vortex. These modifications, Anders said carefully. What exactly are we talking about? Thalan smiled, a thin expression that didn't reach his eyes. A neural interface far more advanced than standard models. It will allow you to feel the nebula's currents, to become one with your ship in ways normally impossible. And the risks? Minimal compared to the alternatives. Anders looked out at the swirling chaos of the nebula. And if I refuse? Then we find someone else, Thalan said evenly. Though their chances of success would be significantly lower, and your opportunity for exoneration would unfortunately vanish. I want more than exoneration, Anders said, making his decision. I want my full military pension restored, backdated to my discharge. And I want the Nomad upgraded beyond just this mission. New engines, new shields, everything. Thalan considered for a moment, then nodded. Acceptable terms. Do we have an agreement? Anders looked once more at the nebula, the swirling vortex that might well become his grave. But the chance to clear his name, to silence the whispers that followed him across the galaxy, that was worth the risk. We do, he said. When do we start? Immediately, Thalan replied. The princess's lives depend on it. The next 12 hours passed in a blur, as technicians swarmed over the Nomad, installing systems Anders had never seen before. The neural interface was the centerpiece, a sleek device that would connect directly to his brainstem, allowing him to feel the ship as an extension of his own body. This will hurt, the technician warned, as she prepared to install the interface. But only for a moment. She was wrong. It hurt like hell, a white-hot spike driving into his mind. Anders screamed, his body arching off the medical table. Then suddenly, The pain vanished, replaced by an awareness unlike anything he'd experienced before. He could feel the Nomad, not just know it, but feel it as if the ship's hull were his skin, its sensors, his eyes. When he moved, phantom sensations suggested the ship moved with him, though it remained docked. "The connection is strong," the technician said, reading data from her instruments. "Better than expected." "Is it always like this?" Anders asked, overwhelmed by the sensations flooding his consciousness. "It will become more manageable with time," she assured him. "The interface is calibrating to your neural patterns." By the time the modifications were complete, Anders had gained a measure of control over the flood of information. He could focus on specific systems, directing his attention like a spotlight through the ship's functions. Thalon came to see him off, accompanied by a team of specialists. "We've loaded the Astral Dawn's last known coordinates," he said. "Our calculations suggest they've drifted deeper into the nebula, but are likely still intact." "How long can they survive in there?" Anders asked. "Their life support should last another 7 days," Thalon replied. "But the nebula's energy storms are intensifying. If you don't reach them within 72 hours, there may be nothing left to save." "No pressure," Anders muttered. "One more thing," Thalon added. "The Blood Covenant." Anders frowned. "What's that?" "An ancient tradition," Thalon explained. "Any outsider who saves a royal life is entitled to request union with that royal as reward." "You mean marriage?" "Essentially, yes. It dates back millennia to when such unions strengthened our genetic diversity." Anders stared at him. "You're telling me if I save these princesses, I'm supposed to marry one of them?" "The tradition exists, though it has not been invoked in generations," Thalon said carefully. "I mention it only because the princesses themselves may refer to it. They are traditionally minded." "Well, they don't need to worry," Anders said. "I have no interest in collecting royal brides." Thalon inclined his head. "As you say, good hunting, Captain Cade." The Nomad detached from the station, its enhanced engines humming with power. As they approached the edge of the Vortex Nebula, Anders felt his stomach tighten. The swirling energy patterns seemed to reach out for his ship, hungry tendrils of chaos beckoning him forward. "Here goes nothing," he muttered, and plunged into the maelstrom. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. The neural interface flared to life, flooding Anders' consciousness with sensations beyond normal human perception. He could feel gravitational eddies pushing against the Nomad's hull, see energy patterns that existed between normal spectrums of light. The ship became truly part of him, responding to his thoughts faster than any manual control could allow. Still, navigating the vortex was like trying to swim through a hurricane. Energy discharges rocked the ship, and spatial distortions caused nausea that the interface couldn't fully suppress. Anders fought through it, using his instincts to find paths of lesser resistance through the chaos. Hours passed as he pushed deeper into the nebula, following the faint trail of the Astral Dawn's passage. The energy storms grew more intense, requiring more of his concentration. Sweat soaked his flight suit, and his muscles ached from tension. Just as he was considering a brief rest, the sensors pinged. A ship directly ahead caught in a gravitational eddy that slowly pulled it toward a particularly violent energy storm. The Astral Dawn. Anders adjusted course, approaching cautiously. The royal vessel was larger than his, its elegant lines now scarred by the nebula's fury. It drifted helplessly, its conventional engines useless, against the gravitational forces trapping it. He opened a communication channel. "Astral Dawn, this is Captain Anders Cade of the Nomad. I've been sent by High Counselor Thalon to guide you out of the nebula." Static crackled. Then a voice broke through. "Captain Cade, this is Captain Vidian of the Astral Dawn. Your arrival is unexpected." Anders could hear the skepticism in Vidian's voice. "I understand your caution, Captain, but we have limited time. The energy storm ahead will tear your ship apart within hours. I need to establish a guidance link between our vessels." "More static, then? Stand by, Captain Cade." Anders waited impatiently, watching the energy storm grow. Finally, Vidian's voice returned. "We're ready to establish the link. The princesses wish to speak with you first." The view screen flickered, and Anders found himself looking at two identical women. The royal twins of Athetherin princesses Elixa and Sel regarded him with identical expressions of careful assessment. Their silver skin and pupilless eyes marked them as pure Athetherin, their regal bearing unmistakable, even in the current crisis. "Captain Cade." They spoke in unison, an Athetherin custom that Anders found disconcerting. "You risk much entering the vortex for our sake." "Just doing my job," Anders replied. "We need to establish the link quickly. That storm isn't waiting." The twins exchanged glances, one of them impossible to tell which spoke alone. "I am Princess Elixa. We have questions before proceeding." "With respect, Your Highness, questions can wait until we're safely out of the nebula." The other twin spoke. "I am Princess Sel. We must know, are you aware of the Blood Covenant?" Anders suppressed a grimace. "High Counselor Thalon mentioned it. It's not relevant to this mission." "It is entirely relevant," Elixa countered. "By ancient law, our rescue creates a bond that cannot be ignored." "Your Highnesses," Anders said firmly, "I'm not here to claim any reward, traditional or otherwise. I'm here to get your ship to safety. Now please authorize the guidance link before that storm tears us both apart." The twins conferred silently, then nodded in unison. "Proceed, Captain Cade." The guidance link established a new level of awareness, flooded Anders' consciousness through the neural interface. He could now sense the astral dawn as well, though less intimately than the Nomad. It was enough to create a path for both ships to follow. "I'll take the lead," Anders instructed. "Match my movements exactly. The path through the nebula shifts constantly. What worked for me coming in won't work for us going out." "Understood," Captain Vidian acknowledged. "We're at your disposal." Anders guided the ships away from the approaching storm, feeling his way through the gravitational currents. Progress was slow. The astral dawn's larger mass made it less maneuverable, forcing Anders to find wider paths through the chaos. After several tense hours, he detected an anomaly in the astral dawn's engine signature. "Captain Vidian, I'm reading fluctuations in your propulsion system." A pause, then, confirmed Captain Cade. "Our engineers report unusual power spikes. They're investigating." Anders frowned. The pattern of fluctuations seemed deliberate, almost like... "Captain, check for sabotage," he said urgently. "Those aren't random fluctuations." The communication channel went silent. Anders waited, tension building, as the Nomad and Astral Dawn drifted through a relatively calm pocket in the nebula. Finally, Princess Sel's voice came through. "Captain Cade, please dock with our vessel immediately. We have a situation." The docking procedure was tricky in the nebula's shifting gravitational fields, but the neural interface gave Anders unprecedented control. The Nomad locked onto the Astral Dawn's auxiliary docking port with minimal difficulty. Anders was met by Princess Sel herself, accompanied by armed guards. Up close, she was even more striking, her silver skin luminescent under the ship's lights, her white hair flowing freely, in contrast to the elaborate style he'd seen on the view screen. "We've discovered evidence of tampering in our engine room," she said, without preamble. "Our chief engineer believes someone deliberately sabotaged our navigation system to guide us into the nebula." "The Corvallians?" Anders asked. "Perhaps," Sel replied. "But they would need help from within. We need your perspective. An outsider might see what we cannot." She led him through the opulent corridors of the royal vessel. Despite the crisis, the Astral Dawn's interior remained a showcase of Athetherin wealth and artistry, with sweeping architecture and materials unknown in the wider galaxy. The engine room was another matter entirely. Signs of battle were evident, scorch marks on the walls, equipment scattered across the floor. Engineers worked frantically at various stations trying to stabilize the systems. Princess Elixa stood in the center of the chaos, directing the efforts with calm precision. Unlike her sister, she wore her white hair in a complex arrangement that symbolized her status. She turned as Anders approached. "Captain Cade," she acknowledged. "Your warning was timely. We've neutralized one saboteur, but I fear there may be others. Anders examined the damaged systems. The sabotage was sophisticated, designed to appear as random failures caused by the nebula's interference. Someone, with intimate knowledge of Athetheran technology, had implemented it. "Where's the saboteur you caught?" he asked. "Dead," Cell said flatly. "He chose suicide over capture, but not before causing significant damage to our propulsion systems." Anders assessed the situation quickly. "You can't maintain the precision needed to navigate the nebula with these systems compromised. We need a different approach." Alexa regarded him with interest. "What do you suggest?" "A direct neural link between our ships," Anders said. "My interface is handling the nebula's distortions. If we establish a more robust connection, I can essentially pilot both vessels simultaneously." The twins exchanged concerned glances. Cell spoke first. "Such a connection would give you unprecedented access to royal technology." "It would also save your lives," Anders countered. "Unless you have a better idea." Alexa stepped forward. "I will monitor the connection personally. I have training in neural technologies." "Fine," Anders agreed. "But we need to move quickly, and we need to identify any other saboteurs before they finish what the first one started." The modifications required 2 hours of intense work. Anders remained connected to the Nomad through his interface, while Alexa established the secondary link to the Astral Dawn systems. The sensation was strange, like trying to control two bodies simultaneously. "The connection is stable," Alexa announced finally. "But you must be cautious. Your human physiology was not designed for this level of neural load." "Noted," Anders said, already feeling the strain as dual sensory inputs competed for his attention. He focused, separating the two ships in his mind, establishing boundaries between them. Gradually, he gained control, feeling the Astral Dawn respond to his thoughts alongside the Nomad. It was like trying to dance with two partners at once, but he found the rhythm. "It's working," he said, voice strained. "Prepare for departure." They retreated from the calm pocket, once again facing the full fury of the nebula. Anders guided both ships through the maelstrom, his consciousness stretched between them. The neural load was immense, sending spikes of pain through his temples with each course correction. Princess Cell remained on the bridge of the Astral Dawn, relaying information between Anders and the royal crew. Through the neural link, he sensed her calm competence, so different from the formal princess he'd first encountered. Alexa stayed with Anders on the Nomad, monitoring the neural connection, making adjustments when the load threatened to overwhelm him. Her technical skill impressed him. She understood the interface as well as the technicians who had installed it. Hours passed in grueling concentration. They were making progress, but too slowly. Anders' nose began to bleed from the strain of maintaining the dual connection. "You need to rest," Alexa insisted, wiping blood from his face with a cloth. "No time," Anders grunted, pushing through another energy wave. "We still have an unknown number of saboteurs on board the Astral Dawn. If they realize what we're doing..." As if summoned by his words, alarms blared through both ships. Cell's voice came through urgent and commanding. "We've detected unauthorized access to the engine core. Someone's trying to trigger a catastrophic overload." Anders felt it through the neural link power, surging dangerously through the Astral Dawn systems. The saboteur was trying to destroy the ship from within. "Where?" he demanded. "Lower engineering section," Cell replied. "We've sent security, but the saboteur has sealed the compartment." Anders made a split-second decision. "Princess Alexa, take over monitoring the neural link. I need to board the Astral Dawn." Alexa protested. "The link is barely stable with you fully focused. If you divide your attention further..." "If that engine goes critical, it won't matter," Anders interrupted. "The explosion could trigger a chain reaction in the nebula that would destroy both ships." Reluctantly, Alexa took his place at the control console. "I'll do what I can to maintain stability, but hurry." Anders rushed through the docking tunnel, the neural interface allowing him to maintain partial control of both ships, even as he moved. The strain was incredible, like trying to solve complex equations while running a marathon. Princess Cell met him at the Astral Dawn's docking port, armed with an elegantly crafted but lethal-looking weapon. The saboteur has barricaded the engineering section and initiated an overload sequence. Our security cannot breach the doors in time. Is there another way in? Anders asked, his head pounding with the effort of maintaining the neural connections. The maintenance shafts, Cell replied, but they're narrow and heavily protected. Show me. They raced through the ship's corridors, crew members scrambling to evacuate the sections nearest to engineering. Through the neural link, Anders felt the Astral Dawn systems straining as power built toward critical levels. The maintenance shaft was barely wide enough for Anders to squeeze through. Cell looked at it doubtfully. Our security officers couldn't fit. You'll have to go alone. What about you? Anders asked. Cell's expression was grim. I'll find another way to help. Go. The shaft was a claustrophobic nightmare, made worse by the neural interface flooding Anders's mind with data from both ships. He pushed forward, guided by Cell's directions through his communicator. You're approaching the main junction, she said. The engineering section is below you. The saboteur has overridden the security protocols, but the maintenance hatch should still function manually. Anders found the hatch a heavy metal plate secured by emergency locks. Using tools from his utility belt, he bypassed the locks and eased the hatch open. The engineering section below was bathed in pulsing red light. At the main console stood a figure working frantically at the controls. Not an Athetheran, this was a Corvallian, their scaled skin unmistakable, even in the dim light. Anders dropped silently from the maintenance shaft, drawing the weapon Cell had provided. Step away from the console! The Corvallian whirled, revealing a face twisted with hatred. Too late, human. The overload sequence is locked. Anders saw the truth of it on the display's power levels, rising rapidly toward the critical threshold. He could feel it through the neural link, the building pressure that would soon tear the ship apart. Why, he demanded, keeping his weapon trained on the saboteur. Why sacrifice yourself? For freedom from Athetheran rule, the Corvallian snarled. Our people have suffered under their guidance for generations. With the royal line broken, we can finally claim independence. Anders moved toward the console. There are other ways to gain independence, ways that don't involve murder. Easy for you to say, human. Your kind has never lived under the yoke of Athetheran protection. The Corvallian's hand moved toward a concealed weapon. Anders fired without hesitation, the energy burst striking the saboteur in the shoulder, spinning him away from the console. But the damage was done. The overload sequence continued its countdown. Anders rushed to the console, his fingers flying over the controls. Through the neural link, he connected directly with the ship's systems, searching for a way to abort the sequence. But the saboteur had been thorough, locking out the conventional override commands. There's no time to stop it conventionally, he muttered, then had an inspiration. The neural link gave him unprecedented access. Instead of fighting the security protocols, perhaps he could work with them. He deepened the connection, pushing his consciousness further into the Astral Dawn systems. The neural load was excruciating like knives behind his eyes, but he pushed through the pain. He found the power regulation subroutines and began a delicate process of rerouting the building energy. Captain Cade, Princess Cell's voice came through his communicator. Our sensors show the overload is still in progress. Working on it. Anders grunted, blood now flowing freely from his nose and ears as the neural interface struggled with the load. Can't stop it. Trying to redirect it. Through the blur of pain, he saw a new presence in the engineering section. Princess Cell had found another way in. She took in the situation at a glance, the wounded Corvallian Anders at the console, blood streaming down his face. What can I do? She asked, moving to his side. Need to vent the excess energy. Anders explained, his speech slurring as the neural overload affected his motor functions. But the standard protocols are locked. I'm creating a new pathway, but the safety interlocks. Cell understood immediately. You need an override authorization. Stand aside. She placed her hands on the console, her royal codes bypassing security measures that would have taken Anders hours to crack. Together, they created a new energy pathway, rerouting the building power away from the core and toward the ship's external vents. It's working, Anders said, watching the power levels begin to stabilize. But we need to release the energy away from both ships, or the discharge could cripple us. Through the neural link, Anders coordinated the positions of both vessels, maneuvering them to create maximum distance from the planned energy release. The strain of controlling both ships while simultaneously managing the overload was beyond anything he'd experienced before. His vision tunneled darkness, creeping in from the edges. "Ready for emergency vent," Cell announced. "On your mark." Anders gave the command through the neural link feeling, rather than seeing the massive energy discharge erupt from the Astral Dawn's ventral ports. The release sent both ships tumbling through the nebula, but Anders used the neural interface to stabilize their course, absorbing the gravitational shifts through his own body. The crisis passed power levels returning to normal, but the damage was done. Anders collapsed the neural load, finally overwhelming his consciousness. The last thing he saw was Princess Cell catching him as he fell. He awoke in the Astral Dawn's medical bay, the soft hum of advanced healing technology surrounding him. The neural interface had been temporarily disconnected, leaving his mind eerily quiet after hours of sensory overflow. Princess Alexa stood nearby, studying readouts from the medical equipment. She noticed his stirring and approached. "Captain Cade," she said formally, "you've been unconscious for 6 hours. How do you feel?" "Like I tried to headbutt a gravitational singularity." Anders groaned, attempting to sit up. His body felt leaden, unresponsive. "The ship's safe for the moment. We remain within the nebula, but in a stable position. Princess Cell has maintained the neural link with help from your ship's systems." Anders was impressed. "She's piloting both ships." "Not with your skill," Alexa acknowledged, "but adequately for our current situation. The saboteur has been contained, and we've identified and arrested his accomplice, our own security chief Lion." "A double agent," Anders said, understanding dawning. "That's how they knew your route, how to sabotage the systems." Alexa nodded grimly. "Lion has served our family for decades. His betrayal cuts deeply." "Why did he do it?" "The usual reasons. Power, wealth, ideology." Alexa's expression was unreadable. "The Corvallian Collective promised him a position of authority in their new government after our deaths destabilized the sector." Anders processed this information, his tactical mind already assessing the implications. "If the Collective is moving against a Thetheran openly, you can expect more attacks." "Indeed. Which makes our safe return all the more crucial." Alexa hesitated, then added, "Your actions saved our lives, Captain Cade. The Blood Covenant has been invoked." Anders closed his eyes briefly. "I told you I'm not interested in claiming any reward, especially not a political marriage." "Nevertheless, the law exists," Alexa said, "and my sister and I are bound by it." Before Anders could respond, the medical bay door opened, admitting Princess Cell. She had abandoned her formal attire for a practical flight suit, similar to Anders's own. Despite this, her regal bearing remained unmistakable. "Our patient is awake," she observed. "Good, we need him." Alexa frowned. "He requires rest, sister. The neural overload nearly killed him." "No time for rest," Cell countered. "Our sensors have detected 3 Corvallian warships at the edge of the nebula. They're waiting for us." Anders forced himself upright, ignoring the pain that lanced through his skull. "They're expecting us to emerge weakened and vulnerable." "Precisely," Cell agreed. "We need your neural capabilities to navigate us through the nebula by an unexpected route." Anders assessed his condition honestly. "I'm not sure I can handle the neural load again so soon. Last time nearly fried my brain." Alexa stepped forward. "I've been studying the interface technology. I believe I can modify it to distribute the load more efficiently, reducing the strain on your neural pathways." "And I can handle part of the navigational duties," Cell added. I've learned much from monitoring our link. Anders looked between the two princesses, so different despite their identical appearance. Elixa, the scientist and strategist. Sel, the warrior and pilot. Both now offering to share the burden he'd carried alone. All right, he decided. But we do this my way. No royal protocols, no chain of command issues. In the Nebula, my word is law. The twins exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. Then, to Anders' surprise, they both nodded. Agreed, they said in unison. The modified neural interface was both better and worse than before. Better because Elixa's adjustments allowed Sel to share part of the navigational burden. Worse because the connection between the three of them created an intimacy that Anders found unsettling. He could sense their emotions, their thoughts hovering just below the surface of conscious awareness. Elixa's brilliant, analytical mind, constantly evaluating options. Sel's fierce determination and protective instincts. And they, no doubt, could sense his own doubts and fears. The Corvallian ships are maintaining position. Elixa reported monitoring the long-range sensors. They've established a blockade along our most likely exit vector. Then, we find a different way out, Anders said, guiding the linked ships through a particularly turbulent section of the nebula. The strain was manageable now, with Sel handling the Astral Dawn's basic functions, while Anders focused on navigating the gravitational currents. The nebula's structure is densest in the southwestern quadrant, Elixa observed. But the energy patterns suggest a potential corridor leading to the outer edge. Anders felt it through the link, a subtle current in the chaos, a path rarely taken because of its apparent danger. It's unstable. The gravitational shear could tear the ships apart if we miscalculate. But the Corvallians wouldn't expect us to attempt it, Sel pointed out. The element of surprise could be decisive. Anders made the decision. We'll take the corridor. Princess Elixa, divert additional power to the structural integrity fields. Princess Sel, prepare for rapid course changes on my mark. The corridor was a nightmare of shifting gravitational forces and energy discharges. Even with the shared neural load, Anders fought for control with every passing moment. The ships creaked and groaned as opposing forces pulled at their hulls. Structural integrity at 60% and falling. Elixa reported, her voice calm, despite the danger. We're taking cumulative damage from the gravitational shear. Almost through, Anders promised, sensing the edge of the nebula ahead. Prepare for emergency acceleration on my mark. The final approach was the most dangerous. As they neared the boundary between the nebula and normal space, the gravitational forces intensified, as if the vortex itself resisted their escape. Now, Anders commanded. Both ships surged forward, engines straining against the pull of the nebula. For a moment, it seemed they would be drawn back into the chaos. Then, with a final lurch, they broke free into the relative calm of normal space. We made it, Sel breathed, relief evident in her voice and through the neural link. Don't celebrate yet, Anders cautioned, already detecting the approaching Corvallian warships. We've got company. 3 sleek predatory vessels converged on their position, weapons charged. Unlike the elegant aesthetics of a Thetheran design, Corvallian ships were brutally functional, built for war rather than diplomacy. They're hailing us, Elixa reported. Put them through, Anders ordered. The view screen activated, showing a Corvallian commander, his scaled face set in lines of hatred. Surrender the royal vessel or be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to comply. Anders assessed their options through the neural link, sharing tactics with the princesses, without speaking aloud. The Nomad was well armed for its size, but no match for 3 warships. The Astral Dawn had minimal defensive capabilities designed for escort by military vessels that were now nowhere in sight. We need time, Anders decided. Princess Elixa, can you establish a tight beam communication to a Thetheran space call for reinforcements? Already done, she replied. But the nearest battle group is 3 hours away at maximum speed. We won't last 3 minutes in direct combat, Sel observed grimly. An idea formed in Anders' mind. We might not need to fight. The nebula is still affecting our ship's energy signatures. if we modulate our shields correctly. Elixa caught his meaning immediately. We could appear to be more heavily armed than we are. A false energy profile. Exactly, Anders confirmed. Make them think twice about attacking. As the Corvallian ultimatum expired, Anders opened a channel. Corvallian vessels, this is Captain Anders Cade of the Nomad. Be advised that both our ships have absorbed significant energy from the Vortex Nebula. Any weapons fire could trigger a catastrophic discharge. I suggest you keep your distance. A pause. Then the Corvallian commander replied, skepticism evident. A transparent bluff, human. Our sensors detect no such energy buildup. Check again, Anders suggested. Through the neural link, he directed Elixa to release a controlled burst of the energy they'd vented from the sabotage attempt, now stored in specialized containers. The energy flared between the ships, a dramatic display that caused the Corvallian vessels to pull back instinctively. That was merely a fraction of what we're containing, Anders continued. The next discharge won't be so controlled. The Corvallian commander's eyes narrowed. You would risk destroying yourselves as well. If necessary, Anders replied calmly. But I'd prefer a different solution, one that benefits both our peoples. This caught the commander off guard. Explain. Anders glanced at the princesses, who nodded their approval through the neural link. The blood covenant that binds Athetherin and its protectorates is outdated. It was created in a time when forced alliances through marriage were the norm. Times have changed. Pretty words, the commander scoffed. But the Athetherin monarchy has shown no interest in changing its ways. Until now, Princess Elixa spoke up, moving into view of the transmission. Captain Cade has reminded us that alliances built on mutual respect and choice are stronger than those built on obligation and tradition. Anders felt her sincerity through the neural link, along with something more complex, an emotion he couldn't quite identify. We propose a new covenant, Princess Cell added, joining her sister. One negotiated as equals with full autonomy for the Corvallian people in internal matters. The commander laughed bitterly. And we should trust this sudden change of heart. You should trust that we all want to live, Anders interjected. Right now, we're sitting on enough energy to vaporize all 5 ships. After that, you can decide whether to continue centuries of conflict or try something new. A tense silence followed. Anders maintained the neural link, ready to take evasive action if the Corvallians decided to attack. Through the connection, he felt the twins' determination, their resolve to see this through. Finally, the Corvallian commander spoke. We will withdraw to a safe distance and consider your proposal. But know this, if this is a deception, there will be no second chance for negotiation. Understood, Anders acknowledged. We'll maintain position and await your response. As the transmission ended and the Corvallian ships pulled back, Anders relaxed marginally. That buys us some time, but they'll realize soon enough that our energy reserves aren't as threatening as I implied. Perhaps, Elixa said thoughtfully. But you've given them something they didn't expect, hope for a peaceful resolution. That may be more powerful than any weapon. And did you mean what you said, Anders asked, about changing the covenant? The twins exchanged glances again, that silent communication that excluded him, despite the neural link. Yes, Cell answered. It's long overdue. Your perspective has been illuminating. Our father would never have considered such changes, Elixa added. But he is gone, and the future of our people rests with us now. Anders felt a shift in the neural link, a new determination from both princesses. So what happens now? Now, Cell said with a grim smile, we negotiate, both with the Corvallians and with our own High Council. Thalon won't be pleased, Anders predicted. No, Elixa agreed. But he serves the throne, not the other way around. If we stand firm, he will accept our decision. The hours that followed were tense but productive. The Corvallian commander named Vextar proved more reasonable than his initial hostility suggested. Through careful negotiation, a framework for a new relationship between Athetherin and the Corvallian collective began to take shape. Anders served as an intermediary, his outsider perspective providing insights that neither side had considered. The neural link with the princesses allowed for rapid private communication that streamlined the process. By the time the Athetheran battle group arrived, led by High Counselor Thalen himself, the outline of a historic agreement had been established. The Corvallians would retain full autonomy in internal affairs, while maintaining military and economic alliances with Athetheran. The Blood Covenant would be reformed, making all alliances voluntary rather than obligatory. Thalen was predictably outraged when he learned of the negotiations. He stormed aboard the Astral Dawn, his silver face flushed, with an emotion rarely seen in Athetherans. "This is unprecedented," he thundered, confronting the princesses in the ship's conference room. "Negotiating with terrorists who attempted to assassinate you both, promising reforms to sacred traditions without council approval." The twins remained calm in the face of his anger. "The Blood Covenant has outlived its purpose," Elixa stated. "It belongs to a different era. A stronger alliance will emerge from these changes," Sel added. "One based on mutual respect rather than obligation." Thalen turned his ire toward Anders. "And you, Captain Cade. This was not part of our agreement. You were to rescue the princesses, not encourage them to overturn centuries of tradition." Anders met his gaze steadily. "My agreement was to save their lives, which I did. What they choose to do with those lives is their decision, not yours or mine." "The human speaks truth," Princess Elixa interjected. "And he has earned our respect not only through his courage, but through his wisdom." "We stand by our decision," Princess Sel declared. "The new covenant will proceed with or without your support, High Counselor." Thalen's anger seemed to drain away, replaced by a calculating assessment. "You realize, of course, that the Council may resist these changes." "Then, the Council will be reminded of where true authority lies in our system," Elixa replied calmly. "We are prepared for that battle if it comes." After a long moment, Thalen inclined his head slightly. "As you wish, Your Highnesses. I will of course advise caution and careful consideration of all implications." "We would expect nothing less," Sel acknowledged. "Your counsel remains valued even in disagreement." With the immediate crisis resolved, preparations began for the return to Athetheran space. The Corvallian vessels withdrew, carrying Commander Vextar's endorsement of the preliminary agreement to their own leadership. Anders, finally free of the neural interface, stood at the viewport of the Astral Dawn, watching the stars. His mission was complete. His name cleared his future, suddenly wide open. Yet, he felt strangely unsettled. "Contemplating your next adventure, Captain Cade." He turned to find Princess Elixa approaching her formal regalia, replaced by simple attire that somehow made her seem more regal, not less. "Just wondering what comes next," he admitted. "I've spent 5 years running from my past. Now that it's been resolved, I'm not sure what to do with my future." Elixa stood beside him, her gaze following his out to the stars. "You could continue as you were, of course. A free captain with a newly upgraded ship taking whatever jobs interest you." "I could," Anders agreed. "But after this—" He gestured vaguely, encompassing the neural interface, the Nebula, everything they'd experienced together. "Normal seems inadequate," Elixa finished for him. "Something like that." She turned to face him fully. "I have a proposal if you're interested. The neural interface technology you used has applications beyond navigation. My research team has been developing similar systems for scientific exploration, particularly in regions too dangerous for conventional methods." Anders raised an eyebrow. "You're offering me a job." "A partnership," Elixa corrected. "Your natural neural adaptability combined with our technology could advance our understanding of spatial phenomena significantly." Before Anders could respond, another voice joined the conversation. "Trying to recruit the captain for your science project, sister." Princess Sel approached from the other direction, her movement as graceful as her twins, but with a predatory edge that spoke of combat training. "Merely presenting options," Elixa replied mildly, "as I'm sure you're about to do." Sel smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her formal features. Indeed. Captain Cade Athetheron's Royal Scout ships could benefit greatly from your skills. We explore the fringes of known space, charting paths for future expansion. It's dangerous, challenging work. Sounds like more adventure than science, Anders observed. The best missions include both, Cell countered. And unlike my sister's laboratories, my ships actually go somewhere. Elixa's expression remained serene, but Anders felt her amusement. The rivalry between the twins was evidently long-standing, but good-natured. I appreciate both offers, he said carefully, but I need time to consider my options. Of course, the twins said in unison, then exchanged annoyed glances at the synchronicity. Cell recovered first. Take all the time you need, but know that either path would be honored to have you. As the princesses departed, Anders returned his gaze to the stars. For the first time in 5 years, the future seemed full of possibilities, rather than regrets. The weight of the past had lifted, replaced by the promise of new horizons. High Counselor Thalon found him there some time later. Captain Cade, he acknowledged. I understand congratulations are in order. Your record has been officially cleared, and your military pension restored as agreed. Thank you, Anders replied, surprised by the counselor's conciliatory tone. I also understand my princesses have offered you positions within the Athetheron elite services. Anders nodded cautiously. They have. I haven't decided yet. Thalon studied him with those unsettling pupilless eyes. You've made quite an impression on them. Few outsiders ever achieve such status in our society. I didn't set out to impress anyone, Anders said honestly. I just did what needed to be done. Perhaps that is precisely why you succeeded where others have failed, Thalon observed. In any case, the choice is yours. But know that whichever path you choose, you have earned a place of respect among our people. The journey back to Athetheron space was uneventful compared to what had come before. Anders spent the time alternating between the Nomad and the Astral Dawn, helping repair damage from their Nebula ordeal and considering his options. On the eve of their arrival at the Athetheron homeworld, a formal dinner was held aboard the Astral Dawn. Despite his protests, Anders found himself the guest of honor, seated between the royal twins at the high table. Midway through the meal, Princess Elixa rose, commanding the attention of the assembled dignitaries. Tonight, we celebrate not only our safe return, but the dawn of a new era for Athetheron and its allies. Murmurs rippled through the gathering as she continued. The blood covenant, which has governed our relationships with other worlds for millennia, will be reformed. No longer will alliance be secured through obligation, but through mutual respect and choice. Some faces showed shock, others approval. Thalon, seated nearby, maintained a carefully neutral expression. This change comes in part through the courage and wisdom of an outsider, Elixa continued, turning to Anders. Captain Cade, who not only saved our lives, but showed us a better path forward. For this, we owe him a debt that cannot be measured by traditional rewards. Princess Cell rose to join her sister. And yet tradition demands recognition. The blood covenant, even as we reform it, requires acknowledgement of the life debt incurred. Anders tensed, uncertain where this was leading. Therefore, the twins spoke in unison. We invoke the spirit of the covenant, while embracing its new interpretation. Captain Anders Cade, we offer you the choice of partnership not as obligation, but as opportunity. Elixa spoke alone. My research initiative stands open to you, should you wish to explore the mysteries of space through science. Cell continued. As does my scout fleet, should adventure call more strongly to your heart. Together they concluded. The choice is yours, made freely as all choices should be. Anders stood, feeling the weight of expectation from the assembled crowd. He looked between the twin princesses, so different, yet equally compelling in their own ways. Your Highnesses, he began, you honor me with these opportunities. For 5 years, I've wandered without purpose, haunted by failure. You've not only cleared my name, but offered me paths of real value. He paused, having made his decision during the long journey home. Princess Elixa, Your research could transform our understanding of space. Princess Cell, your explorations could open new frontiers for all peoples. Why choose, he continued, when both pursuits complement each other? With your permission, I would divide my time between research and exploration, using each to inform the other. The twins exchanged surprised glances, then slow smiles spread across their faces. An unconventional solution, Elixa acknowledged. But fitting for an unconventional man, Cell completed. We accept your proposal, they said together, then laughed at their own synchronicity. The gathering erupted in applause, led by the ship's crews, who had witnessed Anders's courage firsthand. Even Thalon joined his earlier reservations, apparently set aside. Later, as the celebration continued, Anders found a quiet moment alone on the observation deck. The stars of Ethetheran space spread before him, no longer distant and unreachable, but full of promise and possibility. Having second thoughts, Cell's voice came from behind him. Anders turned, finding both princesses approaching. Not at all, just appreciating the view. It is magnificent, Elixa agreed, joining him at the viewport. And now accessible to you in ways few humans have experienced. I won't let you down, Anders promised. We know, the twins replied together, then exchanged exasperated glances. We really must stop doing that, Cell muttered. Elixa smiled. Perhaps in another millennium or two. Anders looked between them, these extraordinary women who had changed the course of his life. So what happens now? Tomorrow we arrive at the homeworld, Elixa explained. There will be formal ceremonies, official announcements of the new covenant, diplomatic negotiations with the Corvallians. Politics, Cell said with distaste, but necessary politics. And after that, Elixa continued, the real work begins. Research, exploration, building a new future. Together, Cell added, her gaze meeting Anders. As the stars streamed past the viewport, Anders felt a sense of belonging he'd thought lost forever. Not just to a place or a cause, but to a future worth fighting for. The disgraced pilot who had hidden in the shadows of Helios Outpost was gone, replaced by a man who had found his purpose among the stars. Together, he agreed, and turned his eyes toward the horizon. In the vastness of space, the astral dawn continued its journey home, carrying not just royal heirs, but the seeds of a new covenant, a new way forward. And aboard the accompanying Nomad, a pilot, once lost to shame, now navigated toward hope, the impossible nebula of his past finally behind him.